Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. We're breaking down UFC 311's main event, a lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. Let's jump right into it. First off, we gotta talk about the obvious. These two have fought before. Back in their first fight, Islam came out on top, but it was a super competitive scrap. Both guys previously dominated their opponents in the grappling department, but when they faced each other, it was a whole different story. Their first fight was packed with high-level grappling exchanges, but neither of them could really hold dominant positions for long. The pace slowed down a bit in the final round, which gave Islam the edge, as Arman seemed to tire out. Probably because that fight was on short notice. But here's the thing. That first fight doesn't tell the whole story. Both Makhachev and Tsarukyan have leveled up big time since then. Their skills, cardio, and overall games are way sharper now. So this rematch could play out differently. Alright, let's move on and break down Islam Makhachev. What makes Islam such a beast in the octagon? First off, his boxing is seriously underrated. He's outboxed some of the best in the game, like Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira. As a counterpuncher, he's all about making you miss and then making you pay for it. Classic hit and don't get hit style. Then there's his jiu-jitsu, which is just insane. He's a legit submission threat, tapping out guys like Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker, and even Charles Oliveira. If you end up on the ground with him, you're in big trouble. Islam's takedown defense is another standout. Look at his first fight with Arman. Tsarukyan was getting deep on those takedowns, but Islam stuffed them again and again. His judo is just as impressive. In their first fight, he baited Arman into throwing a knee, then used his slick foot sweeps to turn the tables. And of course, there's the signature Dagestani cage wrestling. Islam's ability to control opponents against the cage, combined with his brutal ground and pound, is just terrifying. Finally, let's talk about his Muay Thai clinch. It's dangerous, and here's why. Thanks to his judo skills, he's not afraid to throw knees in the clinch. He'll even bait you into throwing a knee to the body so he can trip you and start mauling you on the ground. It's like he's always one step ahead, no matter where the fight goes. Now, let's talk about Islam's weak points. Yes, he's even got a few. One of the biggest areas is pure wrestling in the open. If the takedown doesn't end up near the cage, he struggles to finish it. Take the Dustin Poirier fight, for example. By my account, because let's be real, the UFC stats aren't always reliable, Islam shot 8 takedowns. He finished 5 of them, but here's the kicker. 4 of those 5 against the cage. Only 1 takedown he finished was out in the open. And of the 3 he didn't finish, all were open mat attempts. Islam had trouble keeping Arman grounded for long stretches. That's wild, because Islam usually dominates guys once he gets them down. Arman was able to neutralize a huge part of Islam's game, his grappling and ground and pound. So, while Islam is undeniably one of the most complete fighters in the sport, the open mat wrestling and keeping elite guys like Arman down are areas where he's shown he's not invincible. Alright, now let's break down Arman Tsarukyan. What makes him such a threat? First off, his kicking game is next level. Honestly, his kicks might be the best in the lightweight division. They're insanely fast, powerful, and precise. The guy's got crazy dexterity with them. It's terrifying. The only downside is he doesn't use them enough. If he leaned into his kicking game more, it could completely shift the dynamics of his fight. Next, his pure wrestling might actually be better than Islam's. That's a big claim, but his ability to execute clean, technical takedowns is elite due to his wrestling background. On top of that, Arman's explosiveness and power stand out. He's got legitimate one-punch knockout power, which is a rare weapon at lightweight. Now, on to his weaknesses. His boxing isn't bad by any means, but it's not on Islam's level. It's not exactly a glaring weakness, but it's worth pointing out when comparing the two. Another issue is his tendency to stray away from the game plan. A good example of this was his fight with Charles Oliveira. Arman himself admitted that after Charles's attempt on a guillotine early in the fight, it threw him off, saying, "I didn't remember," and causing him to lose sight of the game plan. Against a guy like Islam, losing focus like that could be costly. It's time! How is this all going to play out? I believe this will primarily be a stand-up battle. In their first fight, neither of them were able to do anything significant on the ground. So it's likely that both they and their coaches have realized the best path to victory lies in striking. On the ground, things are just too evenly matched to rely on grappling alone. When it comes to striking, I think Islam has the edge, especially when he's able to play his counter-striking game. His ability to make opponents miss and capitalize on openings is world-class. Now, for this next point. I was watching an MMA Shay video, like many of us do, and he brought up an interesting idea. He suggested that Arman could adopt a strategy similar to what Jan Blachowicz used against Magomed Ankalaev. In that fight, Jan Blachowicz relied on a heavy kicking game, forcing Ankalaev to become the aggressor and neutralizing his counter-punching ability. This could be a genius approach for Arman because it fits perfectly with his skill set. Arman's an incredible kicker, and he could probably execute this game plan even better than Jan did. If he uses his kicks to keep Islam on the defensive and disrupt his rhythm, it could really shift the fight in his favor. And finally, how do I think Islam should approach this fight to win? I believe Islam should rely on his boxing, trying to draw Islam into a striking battle where he has the advantage. He should also use his Muay Thai clinch and Judo the way he always does, controlling the distance and looking for opportunities to land damaging knees or set up trips. In conclusion, I think Islam will come out on top in this fight. He's the more complete striker, and unless Arman can stick to a very specific game plan, it'll be hard for him to win. Arman has shown in the past that he struggles with following the game plan. Remember, in his fight with Charles Oliveira, he admitted to forgetting the game plan after the first guillotine attempt. But that's just my take on it. For now, I'm signing off.